Hello, and welcome to a subscription box unboxing. This is the August art box from Grabie. Now, I did in fact get this in August and film it then, but it's been a very chaotic few months and I haven't been able to upload this until now. But it works because this was a marker heavy box and it's still Inktober. So let's go over the items and I'll explain a bit about what I've learnt. These fine liner markers are from a brand called Monami, which is a popular Korean stationery brand. They come in a nice array of colours and are designed to be water soluble, which makes them quite unique in my eyes. I did not realise they were water soluble at first, and so I was quite shocked when I went over them with the water brush, as I do later, and they came back so smeared. But they are water soluble fine liners, so that is good to know. The next was that very expandable pencil case from a Japanese brand called Kokuyo Pastel Cookie. I unfortunately don't show the full expansion capabilities in this video, but all the loose items from inside this box fit within that pencil case with room for more, which is pretty impressive. Now, these round circles are watercolor paper watercolor paper pieces. No information is given on their makeup or brand, but they work well for their intended purpose, as I'll show you later. Now, I will say the only major disappointment in this box was this here eraser. It is also from Kokuyo Pastel Cookie. While the eraser does remove graphite well, the plastic holder has to be carefully maneuvered around as to not scratch or indent the paper, and the little triangles are far too small to use on their own without hand cramps. Continuing onwards, you may have seen the mechanical pencil and lead refill. The pencil is a Pentel Fiesta, which is a widely known Japanese brand, and the refills are from Faber-Castell, another widely known brand, so it's a fine mechanical pencil to have. The refills are the same size and fit in the pencil, but I do find it amusing that they use separate bands for the pencil and the lead. Now, these here are Grabie's own watercolour markers. I've never had watercolour markers before, so it was a little bit of a learning curve figuring out how to use them. But now that I have, I adore them. They are a lot of fun, and I'll go into how they work a little bit later. Now, I don't think I spoke about the Copic style looking markers, but they're from a brand called Star, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but it is a Chinese brand and they're really nice. They go down very smooth on the paper, but I will talk about them more when I do a little art piece about them and explain my overall thoughts. But it is very daunting doing a piece of art on camera. I felt very watched. But this notebook was unbranded. It's really good paper for the markers. The markers are excellent on it. I wish I knew who made it and what the paper makeup was. But they're absolutely so cool. I love how they come with these little rings and you set it up yourself just so, and they fold out. It was really cool. I also, because I spent so much, I got this free watercolor pad. It is 100% wood pulp, so not the best for watercolor. I tested it with the markers, the watercolor markers, I should say, off camera, and the results were not good. But I do show how it looks, and I can talk a bit more about it there. But yes, wood pulp is not great for paper and not for these markers or the watercolor markers, but it does have a really nice texture and I am sure I can find a dry medium to play with on it. And And the box also came with a compact little aqua brush, I believe they're called. I used it here to help test the watercolor markers and how they worked, and to test if the star markers moved at all. They did not. And then I was quite shocked to see that the Monami markers did, but found out later that they were watercolor markers. Now, I found that out because I looked on the Grabie site and saw the listing, because I was looking for what the different markers and the papers were, but I could not find where the papers were or anything like that. But yeah, so here I'm starting to swatch the markers, and I was working on a bit of an art piece at the same time. That colour there is 6 or 9. I'm not sure, there's no mark to say which one it is. And the following one, that is 20. I decided to do a little bit of a swatch and art piece just to feel how they went down on the designed paper, and those two combined were really, really lovely. These markers were very nice to use and very good on that paper. That there is 93, and it is significantly darker than the colour on the lid. So I found that with a lot of them actually. Colour matching was basically non-existent. Now that one there is 94. These markers didn't have individual colour names, just numbers. I don't believe that they would be purchasable as open stock. I think they are just in packs. That marker is 97, but the markers are available on AliExpress. So they very easily could be, but they're also very, very cheap if they are available on AliExpress. Actually, most things here, Monami is available on AliExpress. Kokuyo pastel pencils and that pencil case specifically, I saw while researching, found it on AliExpress. Now that color is 150. But Monami is also purchasable on AliExpress. I am not sure about the notebooks and the Grabie branded stuff. But yes, that is something to consider with the price point, because Grabie is not cheap. But most of the stuff is supplied from AliExpress. So that is something to think about when purchasing these. Now, that colour is 203 and the one before was 154. Despite being from AliExpress, these are really lovely. So you have sort of like a curated pack. So you're not just wasting your money on cheap things from that site. Like, these have been tested and proven to work. You can also buy, at least Star, I looked into them. They have their own site that you can buy from. And I don't know whether it's just easier to sell on AliExpress in that drop shipping format. Those colours were 206 and then 213. But yes, for the price of what these boxes are and what comes in it, I don't think I will be buying it again. It may be better value elsewhere, but it is quite expensive. And while I do really like these, I'm not sure that it is worth it, I am afraid. But the markers are really lovely. As you can see, they're a little patchy. They're not super thick, but I don't mind that. They're really smooth. They there was no feathering on this paper, so the paper is really good. And the Monami markers, they were also really lovely. That colour there is the R49 chocolate. Now, I do know Monami is a well-respected stationery brand in Korea, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. It might just be, like I said, just easier to buy from AliExpress and to deal with postage and handling through that way. But as I think most people are trying to be more sustainable and look towards a more sustainable future, it is not the best to buy from places like that. I'm sure we've all heard about the not so great conditions that people live in, that people work in for places like AliExpress, Temu, Shein, and the like. But let's not get into the politics of that. This marker was O65 Camel, followed by B89 Indigo, and G38 Dark Green. And these were lovely fine liners. We've got there the NG9 Neutral Green 9, and I really liked them. I will be using these again. That was the R17 Red Wine, which was, I found, the only one that of the Monami markers that didn't colour match. It is a significantly brighter red than on the lid, where the rest colour matched really well. But for the star markers, I'm not even sure how much of an attempt was made to colour match. They look so wildly different. But they were really fun to work with, and I am glad that I tried them out. I'm glad that I have seen what Grabie's all about, and I'm pretty impressed with that artwork. I really quite like it. It's very simple, but it's a lot of fun, and I do think I want to do more things like that. Keep it simple. I think I try and go too difficult sometimes, and it sends me spiraling. Now, I was just showing there that this was drawn with that graphite pencil and erased with that eraser. And like I said, it left some indents on the paper, so I had to hold it in a particular way to erase with. And there was no point in trying to erase with those tiny little triangles on their own. I had a bit of difficulty figuring out how these markers worked. I didn't want to go directly on the page like I did with the first little random swatching test, because that just left nasty streaks. But if I put down too much water, the pen tip soaked up all of that all of that water, and completely wiped out the colour, making the marker tip completely white. Now, that wasn't permanent. To get rid of that, I had to then just go over and keep brushing and brushing and brushing until the red came back. Not the red, any colour. I'm just using red right there. Now, these ones didn't have colour codes or colour names, but it's very simple. You have yellow, orange, red, pink, purple, blue, green, grey, and black. So nothing too startling there. I am also using the watercolour pad, the wood pulp watercolour pad, to paint on, and I have not even opened it yet, so you have that really shiny ring light. I am sorry for that. I won't do that in the future. I was just sort of like, I want to create something right now, and not really thinking about how it would look on camera, which is definitely something that I need to work on, because I have seen it a few times now where I'm just sort of like, you're not really paying attention to anything other than the artwork, which, is a good thing in a way, but not so much when I'm trying to share it with others. But the markers, once I sort of figured out how to use them, you need the page slightly damp, or even, I suppose, like dampen the marker. So like put a little bit of water on the marker itself to moisten it so it's not weirdly streaky scratchy when it goes on the page. It needs that bit of water, but it can't go down onto a puddle of water, so it can't be wet on wet, really. It has to be like wet on damp. And once I figured out how to get them to work, it was brilliant. I do think some directions on how to use these could have been really handy. I feel like a lot of people that would get the Grabie subscription box are not your well-versed artists. I'm sure there are some, but I feel like most people get it because it's a bit of fun. They're not here trying to create professional artworks, because nothing in this box would be light fast. They're just here to have fun. And that means that they probably don't have an experience with some of these things like watercolor markers, and so they don't know how they work, and then they're confronted with just materials that are very confusing, and that's not what you want. So yes, a sheet of instructions in the box would have been really, really handy. But also like a list of items, what they are, where they come from, what these paper pads are made from, who made them, where they came from, and the same with the marker sketchbook. It would have been very, very handy. I wish that we had that, but we didn't, so we have to make do. As you can see there, I was like panicking a little because of the white tip of the markers from getting so soaked up with water. I was thinking, wow, I've ruined these, or they're just non-workable. How annoying. But just scribbling with it for a while, and the colour came back, and it worked really, really, really well. But these are a lot of fun. I have since done a few different pieces with them, which I guess is the good thing about not uploading this video straight away, is that it has allowed me to do a bit more work. And I do really enjoy these markers, but they are really hard to mix. They do not work very well. I can't like work them on a palette to the side, so you can't mix them off palette and apply it with a brush, or at least I haven't been able to. There's just not enough fluid for that. And they can be a bit difficult to mix even on paper. I found the layering a bit spotty. It's not too bad. You can definitely make it work, but it's very much the colour you see is more or less what you get. You have a little bit of variation. You can work with layers a little bit. But yeah, these are designed for fun, not for professional work. But you can have a lot of fun with these. I have. And they're slightly less messy they're a lot less messy, I should say, than typical watercolor, which does make them easy to just whip out. Even if you're sitting on the couch, you can do some of this without worrying about spilling paint everywhere. I've definitely enjoyed working with these, and I will look into more watercolor markers in general in the future, just to try and find different brands, see how they work, if I like more or others. I did really like the markers, the Copic style markers, definitely up there with my favorites. And as you saw, if you've been watching my previous videos, I did a huge swatching of a bunch of old Copic knockoffs that I've brought over the years. And compared to some, these were really, really good. Actually, I think other than their transparency, they're probably the best markers, the best Copic knockoffs I've managed to try. So yeah, I do definitely recommend them if that is something that you want to look into. They are just very transparent though, so that is something to keep in mind. that probably lends itself to easier blending, perhaps. But as you saw, I didn't really try too much blending. Markers still intimidate me a little bit, even though I've used them a lot in the past, but never well. I'm sure a lot of you have that experience, but yes. So that is the finished piece there. I added some pen marks to get the strawberry lines that I was struggling with. But yes, this was the wood pulp paper with the Grabie markers, and it just bled everywhere. I was using a decent amount of water, and as you can see, they don't mix too well. You get some patchy mixing, but also this paper is terrible. It's super warped, so it may work better on better paper. I also used it on 35% cotton paper, and I had difficulty blending. I tried to make like a misty grey, didn't work, but when I stuck with the true colours, brilliant. So I do like those markers, but I would not use the wood pulp paper again. But yes, that is all for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.